One of the aims of this project is can we provide or present to the farmer an alternative way of farming where we can bring down his costs quite markedly while at the same time improve the animal performance, both in terms of live weight gain, the quality of the meat that's going into the supermarkets and the benefits of that to human health, but also most importantly do that at a much less cost to the farmer. So the increasing debt level that a lot of farmers have at the moment is going to come down. And we know we can do that by reducing the debt level hugely. Production costs can come down for a number of reasons. One, the amount of fertilizer and nitrogen can be decreased and still get the production performance benefits that we want, and also reducing our environmental footprint, which obviously is something that's going to come on in front of farmers much more readily in the future. So what we're looking at here are clover nodules, and there are 5 particular properties of the clover nodule that we want to know some information about. This particular table outlines those 5 particular properties. Firstly, we want to know the numbers of nodules that are along the roots. Do we have good clusters of nodules, or are they very few and far between? We want to know their size. Ideally, we want the nodules to be 2 millimeters plus in size, or are they 1 millimeter and quite small and therefore not functioning as well as they could. We want to know their color on the surface. Are they pink, as we sort of see here, or are they quite white and potentially quite anemic? We also want to know the depth at which the nodules occur. Ideally, it would be nice to have the nodules going down 300 millimeters in depth, or do they occur mainly in the top 50 millimeters? If they do, it could be a pH effect causing that shallow nodule proliferation or development of the nodule at that depth. Obviously, the deeper the better. In the 5th indicator, we want to split the nodule in half, cut it open in half, and just see the degree of redness within that nodule. And that's because of what we call the leg hemoglobin, which is a very similar blood type to our own blood, but it actually has 100 times more affinity for oxygen than our own blood system. And it's there to ensure that within the nodule it's anaerobic. So they want to, for the rhizobes to actually function, they can only function in an anaerobic environment, oxygen deprived, hypoxic, anoxic environment. So that leg hemoglobin is there to suck the oxygen out, so the rhizobes can actually function in the way they were designed to do.
Like grapes.
Yes. So what I'm going to do now is just grab a pair of scissors, and we'll cut the nodule in half, and then with a little hand lens just to observe how red the internal colour of the nodule is. If it's quite red, and ideally we'd like to be able to squeeze it and to see the leg hemoglobin ooze out like blood, and that's a really good sign. If there's very little colour there, or if they're quite white, then that nodule, even though it is a clover nodule, is unable to effectively fix nitrogen. And we often have a situation where we can have 30-40% clover cover within a paddock, but the farmer and the fertilizer consultant often ask the question as to why is it that they need to put urea on to get the ryegrass to grow, because the nodules are not functioning in terms of their ability to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere. And so they're coming in with a mineral form of nitrogen to try and do the job, which the clover nodule could do on its own right. So I'm just going to get the pair of scissors and the hand lens to see what sort of colour we have within the nodule. Very diagnostic of the functionality of the nodule, as we see. And this is a nodule that's on its way out. It actually has about a 30-day life cycle. And there's a common fallacy that clovers will release nitrogen throughout the cycle of the nodule. It only releases that nitrogen at the end when it actually dies, and then it releases the nitrogen at that particular point. But as it's on the way out, this yellow bile that you see here begins to form, and eventually the whole thing becomes yellow, and it'll break off, and it looks like a deflated balloon. But in its height of functionality, that whole thing is really quite bright red, and the redder the better. So that's what we're going to look for. As you can see here, this is a good.
That's got my jersey with it.
We have an example of a good string of nodules along the clover root. And that's what we want to see. That's one of the criteria, one of those 5 criteria that we use to rate the performance of the nodules. So I'll just grab the knife and the hand lens, cut them open and just see what their colour is like inside. It's very diagnostic of the functionality of the nodule.
Oh, it's blood inside.
You can see it, eh?
Yeah.
So that redness is coming through quite nicely.
You see the blood left on the stem there, can't you? See the thumb of the road.
Okay, so
You can see there the distinct redness, can't you?
so with a hand lens, you can go in real close and just see just how red it is. And as I mentioned, the redder the better. If it's white, it's anemic, it's not able to fix nitrogen effectively, and the redder the better. It'll be your ability to fix atmospheric nitrogen is quite significant.
See it there on the pen.
So based on the colour that I'm seeing and the number of nodules there, I would rate this as being moderately good in terms of, and you can see it in terms of the grass growth in 21 days where no mineral nitrogen's gone on.
No, nothing.
One of the things that we're concerned about is the high environmental footprint of New Zealand farming operations. And one of the reasons for that is the high use of nitrogen. In 1983, the country applied 20,000 tonnes of urea. In 2014, that 20,000 tonnes had blown out to 375,000 tonnes of urea. So a 40% increase effectively. And with all that increase in nitrogen, we wonder why the environmental footprint of our farms is very high. And instead of that nitrogen going into the pasture to produce live weight gain in milk production, it's going into the urine and into the atmosphere as nitrous oxide, and into the urine and therefore into the groundwater as nitrate nitrogen, causing environmental issues in our lakes, waterways, rivers, not to mention the nitrous oxide emissions into the atmosphere. But we're able to show on this farm and many other farms that we can get excellent dry matter production and quality grass using little or no nitrogen at all. And that's going to translate into major benefits in terms of treating not the symptom but the cause of a lot of our environmental emission problems.
This book's a must for everybody. Every farmer should have one of these books and be taking it out and looking at his pasture, because that's where the production starts. I think we all should be always learning, and we don't, and there's such good information out there to learn about your soils, because by having our healthy, lively soils, we'll have healthy, lively pastures, and obviously spins off into our cattle. So it's very, very important to know your soils and know how you can improve on the soil qualities and the worms, and on it goes, the whole cycle.